this is where you get to delegate because you can afford to, and you get time back to be able to hire the right people to do those facets so you can stay in your genius zone where you're most purpose driven and you're most creative. And you get to delegate out to a team where they're most creative. And that's just not your jam of doing things in your business.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Workergenix Mastermind. I've got special guest Kelly Ann Peck here with Sales Uprising, a sales expert here to share her insights on doing sales in the current market. Welcome to the Mastermind, Kelly.
Thanks, Harley, for having me. I'm super excited to be here today.
Thank you. Well, tell us a little bit about your background and what led you to your current role with Sales Uprising.
For me, I've been an entrepreneur since 2016. I wanted more access to my kid. I have two now, but at the time I just had my daughter. And Katie, who owns Sales Uprising, we've known each other since 2014. I used to sell membership at the Tower Club in Tyson's Corner. So we've always had a friendship, and I knew that I wanted to take the leap from the Tower Club and jump back in and own my first business because I wanted to literally do things my way, help people. I come from a long background of hospitality. So my first business, I was literally planning huge corporate projects for like Marriott and Ritz-Carlton and nonprofits, watching them really build their impact. And I started to, even though I loved that and I was really good at it, I was like, all right, we're going to turn 40. And then the pandemic happened. And I'm like, I don't think I want to work 16-hour days. And then events just stopped. I come from a long background of sales. I love it. I was a Girl Scout. So I think about Girl Scouts now with a website and distribution. I would have crushed that at 8. So for me, I've always had the vigor to talk to people, to connect them, and that just really excites me. And then Katie reached out to me and said, hey, like, what's going on? And I knew I wanted to become a coach. I really, really, truly just love helping people get over their fear of sales and who they want to serve and really leading the lives that they want to lead with their businesses. And I started working with her. She was my coach, and I was a licensee through the Top 6 program with my company, ERC, and it was really amazing. I teach the masterminds, and then we started working together with planning our retreat that we do for our entrepreneurs. And in 2022, we had like the trifecta of goodness. We started, our mastermind clients wanted to be together because we have national masterminds. And then Katie got back the time in her business. I got the time back in my business to go out and do other things that we wanted to do, which is really important as an entrepreneur and with growth and where the vision of the company is. And we were essentially running parallel, and I love Katie. So Katie bought my business last September, and then I've been full blown in Sales Uprising in September of 2022. And I thought I'd be weird about like letting go of the CEO hat, but I'm not. I really love being the head coach in charge and teaching our mastermind programs. And we have the opportunity now, not only to grow Sales Uprising, because everything is a teachable moment for our clients in our programs and what we do at Sales Uprising, but we get to help more people, and I get to be with Katie. So it's just how the cycle of business sometimes happens. Our husbands call it a business marriage made in heaven, and it just works for us. And, you know, you have that arc of time and everything just kind of comes full circle. And that's what happened for me. And I'm like so grateful. You never know who you're going to meet, and never, you know, in 2014, when I was at the Tower Club, would I have ever thought that I would be working with Katie at Sales Uprising. I just thought she was a really amazing member. I wanted to be around her all the time. And now I get to do that every day. So that's kind of my journey. Being a 2-time business owner And I'm really unique to Sales Uprising because I've been through every stage of business that we talk about, as well as I know where my clients are because I've been through that.
Yeah.
So I'm just grateful to be on the journey with all of our clients and who we get to help.
That's awesome. It sounds like you were able to find your ideal role then. I mean, obviously, being an entrepreneur and having your own business, you're doing a lot of different things. I wonder, does that something that comes up in your coaching or with your clients when you're talking about sales, like helping them find their ideal role? Maybe they are not the one who should be doing sales, or maybe they should be finding someone who's better. How does that something that you navigate?
So for us in Sales Uprising, we talk about two different stages of business. We actually have four, but our clients kind of land into two. Our clients who are in startup phase that are trying to get to that first 250K, they have two problems. They have a niche problem and how to market to them, because we get sometimes fearful and we just take the check and then we're counting down the days until that client is gone, and that sucks. And we've all been there. It's just having the availability to have the courage and the confidence to say no so you can find that ideal client. And then they have total fear of selling. Our clients come to us that they're maybe selling 1 to 2 hours a week, and they almost fall off their chairs when we're like, okay, you need to be selling 50% of the time. And they're like, I have nobody to talk to. I don't even know how to do that. So really, when entrepreneurs are looking to be supported, we're all about the steps. We're also all about the context of the business. And because businesses are like humans, no business is the same. And it's really important for us to meet our clients in that space. When they're trying to get to that first 100K or 250K, they can't afford a salesperson. They don't even know who their person is yet, of who they need to sell to, who they want to market to. It's like the bad college roommate rite of passage. It's the same way with figuring out who the clients are that you want to serve. And I'm never going to put myself in that situation again because that client is truly not my client. And you have to go through that ebb and flow of sometimes having those meltdowns when you get to have the breakthroughs in your business, because then the confidence and the courage becomes stronger. And then we have clients that are in expand where they've made multiple six figures. They're on to their first million. We have people that are looking to get to double that. And they're at a point where they can afford to hire a salesperson because they know where their money's coming from. They know how to close. They know how to market to them. When people are in expand phase of business, they have a problem with delegation because we know it best. We're the heart and soul of the business, and it's hard. It's really tough to kind of let go and delegate. And then it's also finding that salesperson who physically can sell. And are they going to tee them up? Are they going to close? There's lots of different ways that entrepreneurs can go about that. So it's a good fit for them. So they can delegate that more. So they can go out and get the bigger fish. Because once you get into that phase, you have more employees. You have to really, truly be a visionary. And you have to be able to have the space and time to go out and get bigger deals so you can pay payroll and make smart financial decisions in your business that you want to make so you can grow and scale more.
I love that you've got those different phases, and you touched on phase one, phase two. A lot of people are probably that are watching this are in phase one. They're like really good at that, service that business that they're in. However, sales is like, what is sales? They just are kind of living off of their network or referrals from existing clients, and maybe they're slowing down right now. What would you say to people who they don't have a strong interest in talking to people? I mean, it sounds like your background with hospitality and you love talking to people. That seems to me as a natural fit for sales. What about those people that don't have that kind of background? They don't like talking to people. What would you say to them to help really get that focus on sales and, get into that phase two?
Yeah. So when I have to go out and sell, and believe me, I love selling. However, do I want to do it every day? Not so much. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. So when you are looking at strategies of where to start, think about what you're good at. We have tons of clients that are introverts that don't really care for networking, but they love speaking on stages. We call it the backyard business boom. So if you're really looking to make some huge strides, it's referrals, which 80% of usually startup businesses are referrals for an introvert. And introverts have it made because introverts are usually better sellers because they listen.
Right.
They let the client talk. And I love always sharing that fact because the introverts that are usually on the stage are listening to this podcast. They just sat up a little bit straighter. They're like, oh, okay. Because they're literally listening and they're being a little bit more strategic. And extroverts tend to, oh my God, I can help this person and I just need to keep talking. So I've had to learn being an extrovert to really listen and ask deep questions. But where people can start is your referral base. You have a huge circle of influence, whether that's in your good old Rolodex, LinkedIn, networking, where your biggest cheerleaders, that's sometimes the easiest place to start because you have the confidence and it doesn't feel weird having those conversations and practicing the ask with them. And literally it's just, hey Harley, how are the kids? How's it going? What's going on in the business? We're recording this right before 2024. What are you excited about in your business for 2024? And let them just talk. And then ask them, you're my biggest cheerleader. Thank you so much for always referring business. How what we do and what we're amazing at. Who else do you know that we can help like we've helped you? And again, it's just a conversation. If I got up every day and literally was like, oh my God, I have to close. I have to put this money in the bank account. I haven't closed a deal in the last month. I can't sell anything. Nobody can because you're not in the right headspace. So when you get up and you're like, amazing, I get to have all these really cool conversations with people who I know I can help. And it's giving them the power to choose. So when people don't know where to start, referrals are always great. If you're a part of networking, it's going and having those conversations. But the key is follow up. It's setting those one-to-ones. It's building those relationships. And then with speaking, because that's the third one, literally getting on stage. We teach our clients how to sell from stage through strategy sessions, through building know, like, and trust. And if you don't like to network, putting 100 people and talking to them about how you can help them and landing them is way easier. So we always inspire people. Don't pick things you don't like doing because you're not going to do it, especially if you're wearing all the hats in your business.
I think the having just those casual conversations is something I can personally relate to. And I bet there's several people watching this right now that are like, oh, because I sent out about 150 text messages over Thanksgiving, just saying happy Thanksgiving, asking people how they're doing. And I got a huge response of people who just said, thanks for reaching out. I've been meaning to talk to you. Let's have a one-to-one next week. So I have a full calendar this week after Thanksgiving, just because I was saying happy Thanksgiving to people. I was not trying to sell anything. I was honestly just checking in with people, but it leads to sales and growth in the business.
Absolutely. I mean, business has come so transactional and people really want to be heard. They want to feel heard. They want to feel seen. I think of Norm from Cheers. I loved watching that show with my dad, but everybody who knows your name, it's having that feeling special and getting to know someone because that's half of it. It's also a very slow burn to build relationships. And sometimes people just want it immediately for them to hit the button. And if you're selling something that's in 4 figures or 5 figures, it takes a longer amount of time to do it. So you have to work the steps. But I love that. And I love that your calendar is full. And again, it's just that simple act. And I think that people have tried to make it more human even through the pandemic, because people are more in tune because we all went through that. Everyone was affected. And I find a silver lining in people really want to know how others are doing. And they're giving more grace and taking the time to do that versus going, oh my God, why is this person calling me? They just want to sell to me. I mean, if you're starting the conversation like, hey, I need cash in my bank account and you need to buy this, like, of course nobody's going to buy that or want to be in your circle of influence. So the Thanksgiving example is a really good one.
So you mentioned the pandemic, people having more grace. Have you found like our current environment, whether it's like the economy or just the post-pandemic relations, has that caused like a shift at all in like the strategies or techniques that you see people needing to deploy to have effective sales?
Where people get tripped up is they think that selling is hard. They don't like doing it. They don't want to do it. And they use that as a crutch. So it's finding the time. And if you have a full pipeline, if you're landing deals, if you're having to deliver to your clients, there's going to be less selling time. Where entrepreneurs get it wrong, I feel, is they have the mindset that they want to be delivering all the time, which delivering to our clients is amazing. It's that helping energy. It's a win-win for you. It's a win-win for the client. But if you're not physically setting aside the time to sell and to market and to talk to your people and the right people, you're never going to be able to deliver to them. So it's having the mindset of versus wanting to deliver 100% of the time, because if you're in that mindset, you're never going to sell it. Or you're going to put the time on your calendar and then you're going to go, I don't want to do that today. I'm just going to move it to the next day. And then the next day happens and then you're overwhelmed because nothing has come in or you haven't seen any movement. So it's having the mindset of selling half of the time and delivering half the time, and just making sure that you're filling those buckets with marketing activities, selling activities. And marketing activities are a lot different. Like networking is a marketing activity. When you're selling, you're following up on contracts. You're physically getting somebody on a strategy session to ask them questions. So there's a difference. And I think most people think that selling is when you're going to network, and it's not. You're literally just going to find out if somebody is interested in what you do and then carrying along that conversation.
You mentioned finding the time to sell, and I think you just kind of briefly mentioned like half the time delivering, half the time selling. Is that a ratio that you typically recommend? And how do you help people like stick to that ratio? Or like someone who says, well, if I'm selling or marketing, I'm not out like cutting grass, which is what's paying the bills. How do I figure that out?
So what's super important is looking at your calendar. We call it big rocks. I don't know if you've ever seen, there's a new one that just came out pretty recently. It's about a professor, and he puts a bunch of big rocks in a bucket. And then he puts little rocks, and then he puts sand in it. And then ironically, he puts beer on top of it. But we tend to focus on the sand and the smaller rocks in our business because we think that we have to do those things, where the big rocks need to be the focus because that's where you have the most momentum in your business. So when I hear entrepreneurs go, well, Kelly, I have to go out, let's just use the cutting grass scenario. I have to be out 4 days a week cutting grass, but I also want to go on vacation. And I also am a part of a BNI. Well, those are big rocks. Put the vacation on the calendar. Put BNI on the calendar because that's a weekly thing. And then it's putting the grass time on the calendar, and then also making sure that you're putting selling time on there. Now, for people who are growing and are in expand phase, this is where you get to delegate because you can afford to, and you get time back to be able to hire the right people to do those facets so you can stay in your genius zone where you're most purpose driven and you're most creative. And you get to delegate out to a team where they're most creative. And that's just not your jam of doing things in your business. But we have to literally get there. We go through this too. I go through this too because I still sell, I still market, I still deliver. And if I don't have a pipeline, besides literally delivering it to the masterminds, my private time clients that have that, I'm selling and I'm marketing. I literally clear everything in my calendar because that's where I'm going to get the movement. It's like riding a bike. That first push of the pedal is super hard, but when you get
Yeah.
going, it's just ebb and flow. It's just literally having the movement of it and not feeling like you're up against the wall when you're having to deliver and taking the fun out of that piece because you love it so much. Because it's like, well, I have to go and deliver, but I don't have enough time to go and find clients. And we find our clients get stuck in this when I'm just under it. I am so busy. I don't have anything to do. I'll fill my pipeline later. Like, you don't want to do that. You get to a slow period in the business and then you have no pipeline. It makes it even harder and it can be debilitating to you and your business.
Yeah, I love that analogy of the rocks, like the big rocks and the small rocks and sand. I see that so much when talking to people for getting virtual professionals. It's like, hey, let's eliminate all those small rocks and that sand off your schedule and give it to a virtual professional who is more affordable than people think. A lot of times they're like, oh, I can't afford to hand any of this off yet. Well, if their time is worth more than $11, $12 an hour and they can do those big rock things, then having a virtual professional solves that right at the beginning. And that's what I wanted to ask about, in the last few minutes we have here on like the phase 2 delegation. How do you help people really identify those things that they should be delegating so they can really hit those higher level sales goals?
So we have in the mastermind and in the retreat, we have a whole delegation exercise that we put them through. We ask them for about a month to write down literally everything that they do, from opening the mail to taking notes for a client to admin to delivering, so they can see a huge list of things that they do. We also give them examples to get those creative juices flowing because it's like, I don't do a lot. And they actually, putting them through that exercise, they're like, holy crap, I actually do 4 times the amount of things that I thought that I could do. And with our clients, through that module, we actually talk about when you're ready. And the first thing that you should hire is a virtual assistant because you just hit it on the head. Literally, you can delegate that out. One of my favorite stories is one of our clients. Her name is Debbie. She owns an awesome business called Virtue Art. And it used to take her 4 hours to do her hair because she has really curly hair. And going through that exercise, she literally had somebody come to her house for 4 hours and do her hair so she could physically work the business. Yeah, it sounds like a really silly example, but quite brilliant because she got 4 hours of her time back. So, and being able to literally pass and delegate that out to a virtual assistant, especially with the stuff that you don't like to do, it's very freeing because you do have the time to do other things in the business that you need to do. Because with solopreneurs, they're wearing all the hats and they're already overwhelmed on a regular basis anyways. So being able to get to that point to hire that virtual assistant is essential. And that's where we have them start because there's so much white noise. I have to have a social media manager. I have to have this. I have to have that. I have to have a team of 4. I'm like, you're not even there yet. You can't even afford that yet. You need to physically be able to filter and delegate those items out to a virtual assistant. So we walk them through that. We do it at the retreat, which is super important because it's all about calendaring and then being able to set up your plan for the year on a quarterly basis. And we talk about Richard Branson. There's a story that I always love sharing, and I have to think, like some days I have to be like Richard Branson, but he was pitched by a huge conglomerate company to come and speak, and they wanted to pay him $500K and fly him and do all the things for Richard. And the assistant was like, no, he's not able to do that at this time. So the business owner got, okay, well, I'll give him 1 million and I'll pay for the private jet. I'll put him up. I'll like anything Richard wants, I'll do it. And she came back and she's like, I had a discussion with Richard, and currently, right now, he's working on 3 things in the business. And if it does not evolve around those 3 things, then he's not doing it. So we have to gratefully decline at this point. You have to be Richard Branson in your business.
Yeah, you have to have that laser focus. Otherwise, those goals are just not going to get achieved.
Yeah.
Well, Kelly, I really appreciate you sharing all these insights. This has been super valuable for me, and I hope for our viewers as well. If people want to get in touch with you, like get involved in your mastermind and your coaching, what's the best way for them to reach you?
So you can reach me at Kelly at salesuprising.com. We're also on Instagram under Sales Uprising and LinkedIn. Our website is salesuprising.com. I would love to hear any feedback that anybody has. I am all about talking business, sales, all the things. And Harley, thank you so much for having me today. This was awesome. It's hard to believe it's already over. I feel like we just started.
And it's been a pleasure. Thank you, Kelly.